Okay, it's been long enough. It's Dinotuber Tierlist time. I kind of want to make this an annual thing, if I survive that long, because I mostly just want to appreciate the people in our community, and maybe give you guys a few new faces to check out. Now with this specific list, I will not be ranking anyone who doesn't make semi-consistent content anymore, or anyone I haven't heard of previously. I want this to be genuine. But anyways, I'm done yapping, let's get into this video. Oh yeah, and at 10k I'll stream the Isle for 24 hours, so yeah. So Veloci makes obviously a lot of content. It's mostly news related, and sometimes he makes discussion videos, which are pretty good. I think he's pretty middle of the road YouTuber, for me at least, but he edits his videos very well. He posts very consistently. I have to kind of commend his work, so I'm gonna put him in A tier. Next we have Meta. Meta is super cool. She posts a lot of very interesting content and answers a lot of good questions, I think, in terms of gameplay and balancing and stuff like that. So definitely a very useful resource on YouTube, and just seems like a really good person with good content, so A tier as well. Next up we have Anthomnia. Next up we have Pesky. Pesky doesn't really post as much as he used to, and obviously he doesn't post the Isle content anymore, but he is still a Dinotuber, so I'm going to rank him, and I think he's pretty good. I used to like his old content a lot more than what he's got currently, to be honest, but it's not like his content's bad, it's not like unenjoyable or anything, so I think he's like pretty middle of the road. C tier. Next up we have Orny. Orny doesn't post a ton, but when he does, it's pretty golden, to be honest. So yeah, he's got good takes, he does good discussion videos with very lackluster editing, but that's fine because it's really just what he talks about, and it's not like I can talk about lackluster editing. That's literally the definition of my channel, so I'm gonna put him in B tier. Next we have Defeat Pete. Now if you've never heard of Defeat Pete, I recommend him greatly. You should definitely just at least hear his voice. It would help you fall asleep very easily at night. He's a lovely man, God tier. Next up we have the Isle News Channel. They're a super great resource here on YouTube, just to be able to check out all the Discord updates and things like that, and just to be able to know what's kind of going on in the Isle, which is hard to do sometimes. So they do a really good job at compiling all that information, and because they're just a really great resource overall, they have to be A tier. Next up we have Thievian. I mean, come on, it's Thievian. Like, what do you want me to say? Next up we have Owl Time. Now, to be totally honest, I think Owl Time is kind of like the inferior version of Thievian, but it's not that he's like objectively worse. I just personally don't like the longer formats as much, and I don't think his content is quite as interesting because it isn't a duo of people, which I think just inherently makes it more exciting to watch. But he's still a really good YouTuber. Definitely kind of keeps the Isle community alive with how popular his videos are, so I have to give him an A tier. Next up we have Lacer. Lacer makes a lot of good content. It's nothing that I would typically watch, to be honest, but the editing's really nice, just their videos overall are good, they post a lot. So yeah, I like Lacer, they seem like a really nice person, and I have to put him in A tier. Next up we have Half Sliced. You might not have heard of Half Sliced, but he is a super awesome YouTuber. You should definitely check him out. Definitely incredibly underrated, and he posts a lot of really interesting content, like not just the Isle, but he's kind of branched out a little bit, and I think some of his videos that he's made have definitely flown under the radar, but they're like super interesting and super awesome, so I would highly recommend. He's a super great chap, and honestly, just because he's so underrated, I'm going to put him in God tier. Next up we have Stello Tyrannus. Now this man, he doesn't post a ton, but it doesn't matter because when he posts, it's the funniest shit you'll ever see. He posts basically just like the Isle funny moments, but edits it in a way that I could never do, because I can't even imagine how much time it takes. But yeah, their content's awesome, definitely A tier. Next up we have Tyrannical Simo. Now, obviously if you don't know already, he is making a dinosaur survival game that I actually just checked out. It was my latest video. So he's doing a lot of interesting stuff. I don't think his YouTube is the most interesting to me personally, but he seems like a really cool guy. He's doing a lot of cool stuff right now. So obviously his YouTube isn't like the primary focus for him, but despite that, I'd still put him in C tier. Next up we have Shifty V. Now obviously this guy, he's been posting for quite a while. He doesn't really post the Isle anymore. He's kind of quit a little bit, which I don't blame him for. But his content that he makes right now is actually pretty interesting. Not a lot of people have watched it, but I actually think branching out did a lot for his channel, and I'd have to put him in B tier. Next up we have a Dino Nerd. This man is criminally underrated. He posts the funniest like Lego stop motion stuff. He like builds little dinosaur Legos, and they're like really good. So if you ever like are interested in that, even though it's kind of niche, but it's super awesome, so I would check that out. And then his like actual like dinosaur survival content is also really good. He edits it quite well. It's quite interesting. So definitely an A tier. Next up we have Mombi. Now I don't watch a ton of Mombi's videos because again they're long form and I'm way too ADHD for that. But I do like his content. He seems like a really chill guy, so he's definitely going to B tier. Next up we have Kingfisher, the goat. So this man posts probably some of the best discussion content for the Isle, which I probably shouldn't be saying because that's kind of my whole thing. But he does do it the best, to be honest, so I'd have to give him an S tier. He's also just an awesome human being, so definitely check out his channel. Next up we have NF Bro. This guy posts a lot of funny content. It's super good. He's very underrated, and I recommend that you check him out. A tier. Next up we have Regalius. Now you might have not have heard of this guy. He's pretty underrated as well. He posts a lot of Jurassic World Evolution 2 content. He posts quite a few Isle and Path Titans discussion videos now. So that's interesting. And yeah, he's definitely like still working on the whole YouTube thing and kind of getting situated in his niche and everything, but I would definitely recommend that you check him out. B tier. Next we have Anachronics. You've probably seen at least one of his animations. They're top tier. Definitely just the most interesting animator we have in the community because we don't really have any animators for the Isle especially. So the fact that he does it and then does it so well is really awesome. So yeah, definitely I'd probably put him in S tier. He's kind of goated. He's also just a super chill guy. Next up we have the Gaming Beaver. He has to go in S tier. He basically is half the reason that the Isle is still a game that exists, just because he made it so popular. So you really just have to commend him for all the work he's done to keep this community alive, and his content that he used to make was pretty good. I still like the content he makes now. Obviously he doesn't really make that much Isle content anymore, but when he does, it's still pretty entertaining. Obviously for more of a younger audience, but you can't blame him. So yeah, S tier for sure. Next we have Evolution Square. So they make a lot of Jurassic World Evolution 2 content, and especially in terms of like building, and they're probably the best that I've seen. So I would definitely check out Evo Square. They're super awesome. They seem really chill. A tier. Next up we have UCJ. He's a super chill guy. He posts really good content quite regularly. I would definitely check him out. Personally, I don't really watch that kind of content a ton. As you can see, this tier list is very biased. However, his content is good. Please go watch him. At least a B tier for me. Next we have Murph. So Murph posts like kind of the stuff that Pesky does, but in a lot of ways it's kind of more interesting, and I feel like it feels more like his older content, which is kind of nice. And no, he's not a Pesky clone. That gets thrown around a lot, but if you like the old Pesky content, I would watch Murph. He's pretty good. B tier. Next we have Player Zero. Player does a lot of interesting content. Sometimes he does discussion videos, sometimes he does gameplay, but whatever he does, it's pretty good. It's very well edited, and he's thrown together quite a few interesting collabs for all of us, so I definitely appreciate him for that. And yeah, there's just a lot of interesting stuff on his channel, so I'd give him an A tier. Next we have MD West Laurel. So he posts a lot of interesting content as well. I don't have like a ton to say, to be honest, at this point. I feel like we've covered a lot of things, different niches that I just enjoy. But yeah, he's got cool content. I'd give him an A tier. Next up we have Turkish Delight. Now he makes pretty interesting content, like stuff that I haven't really seen before. Especially his most recent video was very cool. It was about the Isle's like AI system and where things spawn and how often. And there's a lot of really just good information that you can get from that. And he's very, very underrated, so definitely an A tier. Next up we have Zarif. Now I don't really watch a ton of Zarif's videos, to be honest, but I do think they're really chill. They post good stuff, so B tier. Now again, if you don't see somebody on this list, it is not because I don't like them, mostly, but it's basically just because I don't know who they are, or because they just don't really post content anymore. So yeah, that's kind of why. It's, no hard feelings if I missed anyone. I do apologize. But yeah, this is my ranking for now. And obviously, all of the people on here are super awesome, and I just kind of like, I don't know, this is just for fun. It's not that serious. Please go check out all these people's channels, especially if you haven't already. And yeah, you're in for a good time no matter what. So yeah, that's about it. Thank you for watching to the end, and have a wonderful day, bro.